Crisps are sure delicious, aren't they? When you ask anyone what their favorite flavor of chip crisps are, the answer will never be the same. Some people will say Monster Munch or Doritos. If you were to ask any British person on what their favorite type of crisps was, the majority of them would say Walkers. Not just to say any type of Walkers enough, I am talking about the extra crunchy Walkers. There is, however, a problem with the extra crunchy chips, as I level-headed number of the community feel inclined to warn you about. Now let me start off by saying that extra crunchy crisps' main issue is the fact that they're incredibly addictive. More addictive than any drug on the planet. If you have one bite of them, and before you know it, the entire bag is gone. If people cannot get their hands on the crisps of a certain amount of time, they go bananas. How bananas? Well, I hear them not asking. Well, let me tell you, my friend. Acclaimed singer named Lionel Richie is a massive fan of extra crunchy crisps. Now, one day, Lionel ran out of the crisps of his condo and then went crazy like King Louis. He needed some crisps and fast. So he went around town singing to people on who they were just to try to eat their picnic. Share them together for extra crunchy, Lionel would sing before getting a slap across the face by Lord Farquaad. Lionel then eventually made his way out to a local ASDA, and if you don't know what that is, well, I could certainly say, shut up, dear. At ASDA, Lionel saw a man buying a bag of extra crunchy crisps. Lionel then pushed past all the people out of the store before confronting the man while singing, "First you, then me." The man then ran out of the store with Lionel in a hot pursuit. Lionel then chased the man for 2 straight days before the man eventually got into a plane which was leading to the North Pole with the Muppets. Sadly, Lionel Richie happened to be on the same flight and said, "Oh yeah, share." The man cried in agony before jumping out of the plane's window. Lionel then suddenly grew wings and used them to fly to the ground to safety, and the plane crashed into the Farmer Francis field. He then stole the man's crisps, and the man had somehow managed to survive the fall. Lionel Richie was not the only person to have lost their mind from the crispy taste of extra crunchy crisps. Far from it a fact, another person who had to lose their mind was Sable and Pepsi for the TV game guy. Sabe had already survived the steamed hams fiasco and had moved on to London, where he got a job and as an underground bunker, selling disgusting cups of warm orange juice. So the papers were true. Anyway, Sabe had already gotten over his addiction of steamed hams in a flavor of addiction to extra crunchy crisps. He could eat about maybe 5,000 packs in one sitting. It was quite amazing behold, actually. Just like Richie one day, Sabe sadly ran out of his precious crisps and completely lost it. "Hey, let's start the game," Sabe bellowed as he downed a huge bottle of Pepsi, then another and another, and then another. And then he would have been continued if it wasn't for the Pepsi Man, tackling him to the cold hard ground. "Whoa," Pepsi Man yelled as he stole all of Sabe's Pepsi. The rude carrot onion. He tried to make a break for it, only to run into the wall, killing him instantly. "Some of those Pepsi bottles were my children," Sabe cried, as he sat there in a mess of Pepsi and crushed up crisp packets. Because of crisps being so addictive nature, as several criminal organizations may have big money from selling the stuff on the streets. Most notably, the Clementine family and the Empire Bay had made huge bucks from selling it to addicts who live in the city. Don Alberto Clementine owns a crisp manufacturing power plant on the riverside. He is also paranoid as wreck because he believes right hand in Luca Guarino is a snitching for Frito-Lay Inc. Despite being there was no evidence of this. Clementine eventually had enough, and he had Luca hack into pieces with the enforcer Sammy Coyne. He then sold Luca's meat to an incredibly old and smelly lunch lady who has no toes. I'm not even joking, her feet were squares. Bloody Minecraft feet, am I right? Despite having no toes, the lunch lady is incredibly rich and owns a super mansion up by Walnut Pass, where the Trix Rabbit once won a races many moons ago. So sad. Sorry, I'm getting distracted with my uncle just bought me Shrek 2 on the Xbox. Anyways, Clementine was facing a competition with several rival gangs in the area, including rival Scarpia crime family, ran by someone none other than Eddie Scarpa himself. Scarpa made his way of crisps when Clementine did, and then was close friends with the CEO of Walkers, Henry Tommaso. Henry was introduced to Eddie at his bar in Maltese Falcon. "Pleasure to meet you, Mr. Scarpa," Tommaso said, which Eddie replied with, "Don't call me Mr. Scarpa, my friends. Just call me Eddie." I sense some romance and tension going on here, as Eddie seemed to be very nervous. While in Henry's presence, or whatever, it's not like you care about anyway, right? You'd rather be watching Caillou right now, wouldn't you? How rude. Outside the criminal underworld, Bob was incredibly a quiet man from Alaska who's been making big bucks from selling crispy, crunchy crisps to addicts, and then gotten into the shipment of crisps for his son Speckling. Speckling had indeed, for Bob, had to sell Tesco and other market chains, but Bob had no other ideas. He knew that selling the stuff to addicts like Lionel and Sabe would make him far more money. He was doing the crisp trafficking to keep him occupied, and he had planned to kill his wife over lovers Gordy. You see, Bob's wife was cheating on him regularly to corrupt security guard named Gordy. Sadly, Bob couldn't get anywhere near Gordy as he owned a bear as a pet. The bear had acclaimed the BBC actor who had made it very ill and advised Bob to kill him. Bob also served as a supplier for Eddie Scarpa, who paid him in bucks of fish so Bob could make himself a fish and chips, as he was the only thing that he was natural cook. He also didn't speak ever. Every time Bob goes to the speaker, his wife interrupts him. As you may heard, you've gotten the Oliver Charles Funny Pasta Guide. Bob hasn't spoken since the fire of 82, a fire that was personality responsible for. Poor Bob the Tomato. Another big supplier of Walkers is a Stinky Burger truck van owner from Somerset. He sold crisps to local teenagers who were in a prime addicts for their crunchy crisps. Whenever somebody questioned Stinky, he'd always make a BS sob story about how his mother used to wash his clothes in the oven. This made everyone feel sorry for him and offered to buy him more of his merchandise. Stinky was also incredibly crazy to Krabs, as he refused to sell Mr. Krabs and Plankton by calling him Rag Boy and Smellyton. Stinky was also not working with Scarpa like Bob, which made his truck invulnerable to attack. A great example of this is when Stinky was captured by gangsters working for Scarpa after a truck of their crunchy crisps had gone missing. Scarpa falsely believed that Stinky had been the truck stealer due to his thieving nature. "Now where is the crisps? We've lost our truck full," one of our gangsters would yell while pointing a gun to Stinky's head. The issue was thankfully later resolved after Stinky paid a small fine of $6,000 to $60,000 to Scarpa. Thankfully, Stinky was eventually arrested for getting the kids addicted to extra crunchy crisps. He was currently serving life in Hartman Federal Penitentiary. No. Who cares about Stinky? He smells like shite, the same implies. Walkers, meanwhile, have been facing complaints over the addictiveness of extra crunchy crisps. An incredibly rude news reporter named Gareth Eggplant asked Henry Tommaso at the press conference once, "Why do you keep selling Walkers if they're killing people?" Henry said when the conference was abrupt ended. Easily offended knights in Nottingham were especially offended by the crisps, where of course they made a PSA on the incredibly hard to access website about the dangers of eating crisps. Now I would give you the link, but I wouldn't actually recommend going to that site if I were you. Maybe if I am you. I don't know, shite. The website is incredibly dangerous, and every time you would press play on the video, it cuts to an incredibly smelly man eating basil from a jar. He looks like a Clancy Brown. and he presses a button on the intercom and says, "Just relax." His voice was incredibly gruff sounding. Then he proceeds to play the Pirates of the Caribbean for the original Xbox, and incredibly loud music plays in the background. It sounds like the bus is going down a hill. Now if you are willing to sit through the Gruff's Man and 6-hour long Let's Plays, then you will eventually be able to see the PSA at the Easily Offended Knights Maid. The video has Eggplant's name Eggplant Edwardson talking to his crush, Grasshopper Gregory. "Hey there, Grasshopper Gregory, how are you doing today?" Edwardson asked, as waiting for my shopping to come, and the Grasshopper replied with, "I'm doing bad, Eggplant Edwardson. I need something to munch while I wait for my shopping." "How about these extra crunchy crisps I got from Tesco?" Eggplant Edwardson asked, and suggested as he handed Gregory the crisps. "Oh, thank you very much," Gregory proclaimed as he began eating the crunchy crisps. A card then came on screen and said, "Sadly, Grasshopper Gregory died 3 years later after the incident because he had developed an addiction to extra crunchy crisps." Also, some really out-of-the-place happy music played in the background. It sounded like something came out of a Super Mario game. The card then changed to show Eggplant Edwardson attending to Gregory's funeral. The sky above Eggplant Edwardson. Then black text appeared with, "To put an end to the Walkers singing petition." Sadly, the petition was taken down by Mr. Parks, who was also addicted to the extra crunchy crisps, because why wouldn't he be? The Knights have been doing their best to get the governor of the land of Governor Swan to take a ban for all the Walker crisps. "Are you accepting the Commodore's proposal?" Governor Swan asked. "You see, in the order of the deal to work, one of the Knights must marry the smelly Commodore." Now, the Commodore was very smelly and has a thing for people who can't spot him at the train station. He also smokes a pipe. I don't see why I feel inclined to tell you that, dear reader, but I guess I do. This petition was the Knight's PSAA video, who leads to Walker's chef financial backer, and Mr. Heathcliff paying a special visit to the company's headquarters in West Berlin. Now, Health was a horrid man who was even horrider than temper, massive skulled, and incredibly strong. He was disliked by everyone in the company, with the exception of Henry Tommaso. He soon drank off his milk and he was addicted to it. When asked what he was drinking, Heathcliff will even lie and say that it was hair tonic, like any rational, sane person would do. Am I right? Mr. Heathcliff then had his personal assistant, Mel Brooks, and they were brought into the security room to look over what seemed to be some old security footage. Heathcliff was shown the footage of Henry Tommaso dealing crisps with Eddie Scarpa and his boys. However, rather than the fire, Tommaso and Heathcliff instead arranged a private meeting in his office for Tommaso and himself. At the meeting, Heathcliff then praised Tommaso for getting them more money and aligned himself with the Scarpa family. Heathcliff had actually served the Scarpa family and enforced their way back to the 1980s. Heathcliff then suggested that Tommaso use his funds made from his sales to Scarpa to invest in the Suburban Rent Development Fund, which pledges up the speed of housing and developments. For returning the addicts of extra crunchy crisps, Tommaso happily agrees when now proud of his investor, Inlands Fields and Developments, who have a front of the Suburban Redevelopment Fund. Extra crunchy crisps have also inspired people to make stories about them. One man named Omeso Oasis was so inspired by the crisps that he actually made an entire cult dedicated to them. The cult had called themselves the Crispy Cult. However, Omeso Oasis and his friends have taken over a small village in the mountains of rural Spain. He has rejected all of the villagers there and blended up with the extra crunchy crisps. Rather than kill them, the crisps had turned the villagers into ravenous killers who can only eat the crunchy crisps with a cup of smelly tea, which smells so bad that you could smell it from far as north as Frisco. Orsmad Oasis and Mr. Heathcliff and Tommaso doing on his payroll for big money. They supply him with all the extra crunchy crisps we could ever want. Once a governor agent named Leon S. Kennedy tried to get a scoop on Omas's schemes, only to get captured by the crazed villagers. Omas then had Kennedy injected with the crisps, which had turned him insane as well. Kennedy then became Omas Oasis's bodyguard and accompanies him everywhere he goes. Omas Mod mainly did this and needed for someone to drive his car. He couldn't drive it much anymore due to his sandals, making it hard for him to press on the pedals. Way back in autumn of 2011, two officers named Mike Stubbles and George Glasses tried to investigate into walkers by sneaking into the factory late one night. They managed to find Tomaso's payroll, which revealed the police officers and business people who were part of the walkers' conspiracy. "I'm taking these sons of guns down," Glasses proclaimed, as Stubbles replied with, "What, all by yourself?" Sadly, both officers were caught leaving by Mr. Heathcliff, who then handed them over to Omas Oasis and to his cult. But both men were killed soon after. So sad. Well, not really. They were kind of assholes. Stubbles was then corrupted the coup anyway, so he was on the Scooter's payroll, and Glasses were just a prick of Glasses. Nothing much to say about that, I'm afraid. Prime Minister Boris Johnson then commented on the situation of the walkers, but it seemed to have a different about the whole thing. "The impress of the conference," Mr. Johnson said. "Walkers is a great company, and I believe all this talk of corruption and conspiracies has all of its loads of Christmas tree if you ask me. It all is also worth nothing but following up the press conference. Boris was then seen riding his bicycle in Kensington. Yes, Kensington is the royal borough up top. That is the strangest thing, though. No, the strangest part was that Boris was shown eating a huge bag of Walker's extra crunchy crisps while riding a bike. Along with the deserted streets, they were deserted for obvious reasons. Sorry about the world is still made of a bunch of bricks. No going outside of you. Gosh, I'm such a dumbass, am I, dear reader? Oh, despicable me." Police Chief Worrell was also on the scheme and used his status as a police chief to help cover up the conspiracy from being exposed. He has also demoted LAPD Detective Cole Phillips is to Harrison desk with that smelly station, as helps begin the investigation into walkers, and was close to finding out the truth, as well as Worrell's connection to the whole thing. Now, believe it or not, the walkers' conspiracy was actually exposed after a private DM with Tommaso to Scarpa was leaked online. However, this talk, thanks to Tommaso and Heathcliff's connections, the conspiracy was heavily covered up. The only place would be heard about was from the North Pole. Poor Santa, I guess. Well, I don't even know how, alright? So to conclude this, extra crunchy crisps are evil, and you should never buy them. If you need a snack, just go murder an M&M. That M&M was rude anyway, as it insulted you for not getting a big bowl. Now that's just sick. I hope it croaked like a frog as some kind of Carl Plankton. If I were you, I'll stay clear from buying any of those crisps from Walkers. Stick to buying Doritos or Monster Munch from Woostitz. You should even buy Zitoya crisps, as they're absolutely horrible and will break your teeth in the second you bite into them. No joke. It's like eating a brick. Bloody horrible. So that's the end now. If you excuse me, I'm gonna go have a snack. Yeah, a nice little crunchy snack. And that, my little pretties, was The Trouble with Extra Crunchy Crisps, a funny pasta written by Matthew Bumford. My final thoughts on this story. I honestly have to say that this was actually a really funny pasta. It was a really funny pasta talking about these kind of chips. Well, certain kind of chips, aka crisps. Now, if people who live in the UK, like British and all that, they probably call, chips crisps. And meanwhile in other countries we call them chips. Now, I really do have to say that this one was actually a pretty well made story for what this is. It was really funny, it was entertaining, and I really do like how the story went out. Like how the protagonist, reacted to the crisps, and how, the extra crunchy crisps became like an issue and all that. I know it's a funny pasta and it's not meant to be taken seriously, but I really do like how everything went out about that story. It was a really well made and funny, concept for what this is. Now, I did remember reading this like not too long ago, and besides that, I was laughing, but I also would have to say that this one was actually a pretty funny story for what this is. It's a pretty well made story. It was definitely well made, and there's definitely a lot of time and effort into it. So I definitely would have to say it's pretty fun for what this is. So I definitely would have to say that this story actually provided pretty good detail. So I definitely really do find this one to be enjoyable. Now, I know it's been quite a while since I last sat there and read one of Matthew Bumford's stories, so I thought I'd take today to sit there and do it, because, why not? I haven't did any of his stories in like a while, so yeah. Anyways, I really do find this one to be a really enjoyable, entertaining, funny pasta. I really found this one to be quite funny. The grammar of the story is pretty good. I like the sentence structuring, the paragraph structuring. Everything about the story was amazing, really well done, and it was pretty funny too. So I really do have to say that this one was... I obviously couldn't stop laughing because of how silly it was and of how funny it went out. It was a really well made detail. It was pretty awesome for the whole story to go out. It was pretty funny how, all the characters, acted all pretty silly. I really have to admit, this was the best part. It was that, everything that went out, it was just so funny. I really enjoyed this story. So, I gotta say, Matthew Bumford, you did a pretty good job with this story. Now, I definitely would have to say, this is actually a pretty well-made pasta. And, I've been wanting to get to this story for a while, and I finally have the chance to do so. Or to read a Matthew Bumford story, because I haven't read any of his stories in like a while, so yeah. But anyways, I will try my best to read more if I can. It depends on my schedule, and it depends on whatever story I want to get to, and yeah. But anyways, with that being the case, that being said, this is not a long review. I just thought, I'd make this review, just to say, no, I don't really, see anything bad about this story, because pretty much these stories by Matthew Bumford are amazing. So, I guess with that being the case, that being said, I'm going to sit there and wrap up this review. There's nothing really much to say, so as always, I'm going to say, and like I always continue to say, and like I always say, this is just simply my own personal opinion, and if you happen to disagree with me, that's fine too. We're all entitled to our own opinions regards to these creepypastas, or funny pastas, whatever you prefer to call this one, and this is simply my own personal thoughts. My final rating of this story would have to be a 10 out of 10. It's a pretty good, enjoyable, funny pasta. It was really well made in detail. This one was funny as hell. I nearly started laughing because of how silly it was at certain parts. It was pretty good though. I definitely have to say, Matthew Bumford, you did an awesome job with this story, and I really do hope you make more of these stories in the future, which I'm looking forward to reading more of your pastas in the future. And yeah, anyways, with that being the case, and with that being said, what did you guys think about this creepy pasta or funny pasta? Whatever you prefer to call this one is your choice and your preference. Did you all enjoy it? Did you all not? Also, what we have done personally to help make this story a lot better. Feel free to leave me know what your thoughts are down in the comments section down below. I'm the Queen of Lions. Thank you so much for watching today's episode. And if you happen to be brand new here on this channel, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe because I make brand new videos every single day. Don't forget to ring the notification bell to when I upload, so then you guys will not miss an upload. And as always, please roll the outro because I'm out.